Hello students, my name is Shayan Mitra. I'm the faculty member of Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering of Greater Kolkata College of Engineering and Management. Today we are going to start the topic of sampling theorem and its implication. And in the next two lectures we are going to discuss about the sampling theorem, interpolation, and few different forms, how sampling occurred. Let's begin with our lecture. The subject code of signal system is EC303 and this is the lecture number 31, sorry. Okay, so let's begin with the sampling theorem, how it works. So let's begin. One second. Okay, so let's begin with the lecture. In general, in the absence of additional conditions or information, we should not expect that a signal could be uniquely specified by a sequence of equally spaced sample. For example, in this figure, okay, this is sample figure. Okay, we listed three different continuous time signals, all of which have identical values at integer multiples of t. Okay, so these are x1 kt and these are simple. So clearly an infinite number of signals can generate a given set of samples. Okay, so as you'll see, if a signal is a band limited, if its Fourier transform is 0 outside a finite band of frequencies, and if the samples are taken sufficiently close together in relation to the highest frequency present in the signal, then the samples uniquely specify the signal and we can reconstruct it perfectly. The result, known as the sampling theorem, is of profound importance in the practical application of the methods of a signal system. Okay, so let's begin with it. So the basic definition, we should understand it that the Fourier transform is 0 outside a finite band of frequencies, and if the samples are taken sufficiently close together in relation to the highest frequency present in the signal, okay, then the samples uniquely specify the signal and we can reconstruct it perfectly. This result known as a sampling theorem. Okay, okay, so let's begin with it. Okay, these are the three continuous time signals with identical values at integer values. Okay, at each integer they got a similar values. Okay, so let's begin with the how we can go from a continuous time signal to a discrete time signal using the sampling theorem. Okay, so first we will understand what is impulse train sampling. Okay, now in order to develop the sampling theorem, we need a convenient way in which to represent the sampling of a continuous time signal at regular intervals. That's the first point. A useful way to do this is through the use of periodic impulse train multiplied by a continuous time signal that we wish to sample. This mechanism is known as impulse train sampling and is depicted in this figure. We are going to discuss the figure after the mathematical explanation. The periodic impulse train is referred to as sampling function, and period t is a sampling period, and the fundamental frequency is, as usual, is omega s, and we can take this t as a t suffix s. Okay, so this omega suffix s will be written as 2 pi by t. Now as the sampling frequency, so in the time domain we can easily understand that this specific function is nothing but the multiplication of the specific source signal with the impulse signal, which in which the impulse train, where the impulse train has been constructed in a specific this x of t is a regular is a continuous time signal at regular intervals. Okay, now now this is the impulse train sampling signal that we are going to construct, which is nothing but the multiplication of the source signal and the uh, discrete time signal. Okay, now sorry, no, impulse signal. Now this impulse signal, the train of impulse or the impulse train signal can be rewritten as summation of n to minus infinity plus infinity del t minus nt. Now this is a very simple way of, this is nothing but the explanation of a linear combination by which we have already discussed how we can rewrite a specific impulse train sampling using the linear combination property of a impulse signal. Okay, so let's begin. So it is very easily understandable that how we can generate a impulse train signal using this specific mathematical equation. Okay, now because of sampling property of the unit impulse discussed earlier, we know that multiplying xt by unit impulse samples the value of the signal at the point at which the impulse is located, will be xt del t minus t0, which is equal to xt0 is into del t minus t0 applying. Okay, so one second. Yes, yes, yeah, yeah. Okay. Hmm. Now by multiplying this specific signal, the xpt is an impulse train with amplitudes of the. Now that's a very important point. We have to go through it very slowly to understand that there's a basic property of understanding a specific impulse signal. Now what we have done, that we illustrate this figure. Xpt is an impulse train with the amplitudes. Xpt is an impulse train with the amplitudes of the impulses equal to the samples x of t at intervals spaced by t. Okay, so this specific graphical representation will help you to understand. Now as we multiply x of t and p of t, we get this specific impulse train sampling signal. This is the xt, the specific source signal, which is a continuous time signal. Now we have to convert this continuous time signal into a discrete time signal. To do that, we multiply this x of t with p of t. P of t is basically nothing but an impulse train. Now as soon as we multiply both these signals with each other, we get the resultant function or resultant signal as in the form of this. Okay, so what we have here, we have impulse signals which multiplied with this specific source signal, and after that what we have that this impulse train has been constituted by uh, train of impulses which are spaced at a very specific time interval. So as soon as we multiply both of them, we get a specific pattern where we get the impulse signal. Those are already placed with specific time interval. Okay, now as they're indicating the instantaneous values, now suppose this is 0 second, the spacing has been taken for a spacing of 5 seconds. So at 0 seconds we got a amplitude which is nothing but at 0 second what is the amplitude of the continuous time signal. At 5th second we get specific amplitude which is nothing but that 5th second what is the amplitude of the continuous time signal. So so and so forth. So by this we get this specific structure of signal. Okay, so now let's get on with the mathematical operation. Now the impulse is equal to the samples of xt. That what this is the whole thing that I have explained, that has been written here, that the xpt, this is the xpt. Okay, this is the xpt. So this xpt is an impulse train with the amplitudes of the impulses equal to the samples of xt at interval space t. Okay, so that is, so it could be written here as summation of n is equal to minus infinity to plus infinity x of nt del of t minus nt. Okay, now from the multiplication property we can rewrite it as x of as the now this signal has been created or mathematically related here in a time domain situation. In case of time domain analysis we will use this equation, and in case of frequency domain analysis, from the multiplication property of Fourier transform, we can easily understand that this could be rewritten here as a 1 by 2 pi summation of minus infinity plus infinity x of j theta p j omega minus theta d theta, and it could be written as many other forms. And thus from specific example we can also rewrite that this p of j omega is nothing but 2 pi by t summation of k is equal to minus infinity plus infinity del of omega minus k omega s. So since the convolution with an impulse simply shifts a signal, now convolution with an impulse simply shifts a signal, so it could be rewrite here as the, in case of when you want to write it in a frequency domain, we can rewrite it as a 1 by t summation of k is equal to minus infinity to plus infinity x of j omega minus k omega s. Now that is x of j xp j omega is a periodic function of omega. Okay, consisting of a superposition of shifted replicas of x of j omega scaled by 1 by t as illustrated in figure. Okay, so thus there is no overlap between the shifted replicas, whereas in omega is less than 2 omega m there is overlap. For this case illustrated in figure, now this is aliasing, I am going to discuss it. Okay, so first let's discuss how we have get into the idea, or how you get on with the idea of frequency spectrum. Now suppose this is the source signal as we have already discussed. Now this the frequency spectrum of this specific continuous time signal. Suppose for the smoothness of calculation, we can assume that this frequency spectrum of that specific source signal is this. This is the specific source signal of that specific, so this is the frequency spectrum. Okay, and also this is the frequency spectrum or the frequency analysis of this of the impulse train. Now, as you already know, then when you take impulse when you take a frequency spectrum or frequency analysis or frequency if you take a Fourier transform practically of a impulse train, we get single values, single digit values. Okay, so by that we can understand this is the frequency spectrum of the impulse train and this is the frequency spectrum of the source signal. Now, as we multiplied both of them, we get a specific signal. This signal is known as x of t, right? So, if we take a frequency spectrum of this specific signal, the frequency spectrum will be look like this. Okay. Now, as we are discussing here, now here comes another problem. Now, suppose as we multiplied each of these impulses with this specific source signal, we get this kind of a structure. Okay, and each signal is getting multiplied with this specific frequency spectrum, so it will give at each point minus 2 omega s minus omega s 0, it will give us this kind of a structure. Okay, now the point being that as you can see here from this picture, that there is no overlapping between these two edges. Okay, now why this overlapping has not been occurred? Because there is a ample amount of spacing between these 2 points. Okay, now this is the bandwidth of this frequency, and what is that? It is 2 omega m. From 0 to minus omega, 0 to omega m, this is 2 omega m. Now, as you can see, this 2 omega will be shifted here and it will be stayed here. It will be stayed here in this way, from here to here. So what will happen? This amount of this will be at this part, it will be a omega m, and this signal also will go from omega m. So what will happen? The sampling sequence, or I should say the sampling period, okay, should be greater than this value. What is the value? Is the value of the frequency spectrum of that the range of or I would say the bandwidth, the sampling period or the sampling spacing should be greater than the bandwidth of that frequency spectrum of a source signal. Now, if this condition is not met, what will happen? This thing will happen. There will be a overlapping of the signal, the impulse train. There will be a aliasing. This is known as basically there will be overlapping of these edges, which is known as aliasing. Okay. Now, why it is known as aliasing? Because as you can see, this is the real source signal, the frequency spectrum of the source signal. As we multiplied with these points, we get different kind of. This is the original part, original frequency spectrum. Now, these parts are nothing but the aliasing, or I would say the photocopy of the original frequency spectrum of the source signal. So, as soon as we get that realization in our as soon as we realize this thing, so the first criteria will be that the sampling frequency should be less than 2 omega m. Okay, so to do that, as you can understand, this is 2 omega, this is 0 omega, this is 2 omega m. So this value, okay, yes, so for this condition the aliasing will occur. So what we have to do? We have to understand the situation that the aliasing will not happen only if and only if when the sampling frequency is greater than equal to 2 omega m, which is the bandwidth of the original signal, bandwidth of the frequency spectrum of the original signal. So let's get on with it. So now this part is understandable. So if you have to understand what is the sampling theorem is, it could be written here as that let x of t be a band limited signal with x of j omega is equal to 0 for omega greater than omega m. Then x of t is uniquely determined by its samples x of nt, and this is the condition. Okay. Now given these samples, we can reconstruct x of t by generating a periodic impulse train which successive impulses have. Okay. Given these samples, we can reconstruct x of t by generating a periodic impulse train in which successive impulses have amplitudes that are successive sample values. This impulse train is then processed through an ideal low pass filter with a gain t and cutoff frequency greater than omega m and less than omega s. minus omega, then resulting output signal will be exactly the signal xt. Okay, so what we can conclude that as we can reconstruct the as we can reconstruct sorry you can construct a discrete time signal using the sampling theorem from a continuous time signal, and as we have the discrete time signal, we can also use the discrete time signal to reconstruct the original source signal or the continuous time signal, that is been using a low pass band filter. Okay, when we have a band limit filter, we just by limiting using the filter, we can uh, make this uh, signal to go through the low pass filter, and it will cut off these parts, and we will get the original signal. Okay, using the in a frequency spectrum. So as we can see that, so this is the diagram that we have used. This is the original impulse train sampling signal. So as we put that in this part, and using the x of t, this is the original this is the block diagram to which is when we use to construct the discrete time signal. So this is the impulse train, this is the original source signal. As we multiplied both of them, we get the uh, impulse train sampling. This is the, as we have already discussed here. Okay, so using this, okay. Now as we use the ideal low pass filter to recover x of j omega from xp j omega, a spectrum of x at t has been constructed. So by just cutting those part, we can again reconstruct this. The frequency of 2 omega, which under the sampling theorem must be exceeded by the sampling frequency, which is commonly referred to as the Nyquist rate. As discussed in ideal filters are generally not used in practice for a variety of reasons. That's a different part. Okay, so let's get on with the sampling with a zero order hold. Now from after understanding what the sampling is, now we're going to discuss about the sampling with a zero order hold. Okay, so now let's discuss what is sampling with a zero order hold. Okay, the sampling theorem, which is most easily explained in terms of impulse train sampling, establishes the fact that a band limited signal is uniquely represented by its samples. In practice, however, narrow large amplitude pulses which approximate impulses are also relatively difficult to generate and transmit, and it is often more convenient to generate the sample signal in a form referred to as zero order hold. Such a system samples x of t and as a given instant and holds that a value until the next instant at which a sample is taken. Now let's understand these facts, how we do that. Okay, so uh, this is the specific signal, and we use the zero order hold property to realize the sampling theorem. Now what has been written here is to develop the required filter characteristic, we first note that the output of x of t of the zero order hold can in principle be generated by impulse train sampling followed by an LTI system with a rectangular impulse response. As depicted in this, to reconstruct x of t from x of 0 t, we consider processing x0 t with an LTI system with impulse response h of RTA and frequency response h of Rj omega. The cascade of this system with the system of figure this, where we wish to specify so that RT and XT comparing the system is with that figure, we see that RT and XT with the cascade combination. So let's go to the real order here. Okay, so this is the particular signal, this is a source signal. Using this signal we get this, and through which we get this part. Okay, so first we multiplied the signal, we use the zero order hold function, and this zero order hold function will give us the specific the desired sampling signal, sampled signal practically. Okay, so we use this as a multiplication property where it has been used h of 0 t. Using that we can get the frequency spectrum of this specific signal. Now it looks like this. Okay, now for example, with cutoff frequency h of j omega in equal to omega s by 2, the ideal magnitude and the phase for the reconstruction filter following a zero order hold is that shown in figure 7.8. Once again, in practice, the frequency response cannot be exactly realized. Once again, the practice frequency response cannot be exactly. Thus, an adequate approximation to it must be designed. In fact, in many situations, the output of the zero order hold is considered an adequate approximation to the original signal by itself without any additional low pass filtering, and in essence represents a possible, although admittedly very coarse, interpolation between the sample values. Alternatively, in some application, we may wish to perform some smoother interpolation between sample values. In the next section, we explore in more detail the general concept of interpreting the reconstruction of a signal from its samples as a process of interpolation. Okay, So now first we will going to understand now, as we can see, we have understood how the zero order hold functionalities work. It's basically a very simple process used to understand the um, interpolation, understand the zero order hold. Until up till now, what we have discussed here is, one second. Okay, so up until now what we have discussed here is what is sampling theorem is, how we can construct a continuous time signal from a we can construct a discrete time signal from a continuous time signal using the train of impulses. As we multiplied both of them, we can and after got the after getting the frequency spectrum analysis of those specific signal of the impulse train sampling signal, we can extract the specific sampling uh, discrete time signal. So to have the discrete time signal properly established, or we can say that after getting the discrete time signal, we should have a proper legitimate values or the amplitude of that specific continuous time signal when we are working with that specific discrete time signal, because without the information or without the amplitudes we cannot analyze the continuous time signal, because without the amplitudes the property or the characteristics of this continuous time signal will be gone. To as soon as we goes into the sampling theorem and we construct the discrete time signal using the sampling theorem, we have to maintain the Nyquist rate, which is known as the um, at the rate at which we should sample the continuous time signal to avoid the aliasing or the overlapping of the edges of the frequency spectrum. So as we know, the original signal is we have discussed about the original signal as looks like. So as soon as long as the sampling frequency is greater than equal to the total bandwidth of the frequency spectrum of that specific continuous time signal or the source signal, up until then there will be no problem to reconstruct the specific continuous time signal from the discrete time signal. So that is also known as the Nyquist rate or Nyquist theorem. The Nyquist theorem is also obliged or also been explained as a condition where the sampling rate or the sample spacing. So what we have to consider here, the sample rate, the sample rate of the impulse train should be considered properly, because the sample rate will also define the sampling frequency. So the sampling frequency should be greater than equal to the bandwidth of that specific frequency spectrum. Okay, so depending upon that we can if we maintain that specific condition, we can reconstruct that original signal or the source signal very easily from the discrete time signal. So which also give us the assurance that the specific characteristics or the information of the continuous time signal has been retained within the discrete time signal. Okay, so the next part we are going to understand the reconstruction of a signal from its sample using the interpolation formula. Okay, 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 so one second. Okay, so let's begin with it. So the reconstruction of a signal from its samples using interpolation. Now the interpolation, that is the fitting of a continuous signal to a set of sample values, is a commonly used procedure for reconstructing a function either approximately or exactly from samples. One simple interpolation procedure is the zero order hold discussed in the section already discussed earlier. So the another useful form uh, of interpolation is a linear interpolation, whereby adjacent sample points are connected by a straight line. Okay, now this is the picture, we should use that. Okay, now complicated interpolation formula, sample points may be connected by higher order polynomials and or other mathematical function. Now for a band limited signal, if the sampling instants are sufficiently close, then the signal can be reconstructed exactly through the use of low pass filter. Exact interpolation can be carried out between the sample points. The interpretation of the reconstruction of x of t as a process of interpolation becomes evident when we consider the effect in the time domain of the low pass filter. In particular, the output is, as we already know what is the output is, and we also can understand the x of rt can be rewritten here as this h of t. So describes how to fit a continuous curve between the sample points and consequently represent the interpolation formula for the ideal low pass filter. It looks like this, right? So the reconstruction according to this equation with omega c is equal to omega s by 2 represent the original band limited signal x of t, and this figure, go to this figure, the impulse train of samples, the superposition of the individual terms in illustrated. The interpolation using the impulse response of an ideal low pass filter is commonly referred to as the band limited interpolation, since it implements exact reconstruction of x of t, or the source signal is band limited and the sampling frequency satisfies the condition of the sampling theorem. As I have indicated, in many cases it is preferable to use a less accurate but simpler filter, or equivalently a simpler interpolating function than the function. For example, the zero order hold can be viewed as a form of interpolation between sample values, in which the interpolating function h of t is the impulse response of h of 0 t, depicted in this figure. In that sense, with x of 0 t in the figure corresponding to the approximation to xt, the system h0 t represents an approximation to the ideal low pass filter required for the exact interpolation. Now, this shows the magnitude of the transfer function of the zero order hold interpolating filter, the superimposed on the desired transfer function of the exact interpolating filter. Now, both the figure, this figure has been I'll show you this. This is the ideal band limited in interpolation using the INC function. This is a band limited signal, an impulse train of samples. This is the ideal band limited interpolation of which the impulse train is replaced by a superposition of a sin c function. This is the function when you use a zero order hold, and this is the ideal interpolating filter. Okay. Now, low pass filter is naturally applied in a given application. It will tend to improve the overall interpolation, nothing but else. Okay. Sampling with especially narrow passes, that's different. We have already discussed about it, and it looks like this. Signals will look like this. Okay. This is the function. When you use the x of t, when you multiply the h of t, we get the x of rt. This is the linear interpolation. First order as the impulse train sampling, followed by a convolution with a triangular impulse response system for a sampling and reconstruction. This is the impulse train of samples and impulse response are representing a first order hold. Okay. So up to this we are going to conclude here. In the next lecture we are going to complete this chapter or topic by understanding undersampling and reconstruction of signal in another form. Okay. So okay, thank you, bye.